I'd like to call this meeting to order.
Hey, Marshall.
Morning, everyone. Ms. Byram, may I have roll call, please?
Yes, Mrs. Anderson,
Here.
Mrs. Dawson,
Here.
Mrs. Harrington,
Here.
Mrs. Quintern,
Here.
Mr. Rickett.
Here.
Madam Chair, the clerk certifies the presence of a quorum.
May we stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag
Of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Is there any adjustments to the agenda?
No, ma'am.
May I have a motion?
I move to approve the agenda as presented.
I'll
May I have a
second that.
second?
Second.
All those in favor by saying aye?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Moving on. Just want to start out by saying we will not be taking any public comment today. We'll try to get you in and out of here as quickly as possible. I appreciate it. Thank you. Dr. Horning.
Yes, ma'am. We'll have a quick action item. Lisa, if you would come forward, please. This is a supplemental appropriation for security grant funding.
So the state part is $86,892.90, and the federal part would be $74,719.80. And that's for a security grant we got.
I move to approve the supplemental appropriations totaling $161,612.70 increase in revenue and expenses.
May I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor by saying aye?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right, moving on. That's why everybody's here. Capital improvement, OCHS, CTE expansion. Would we like to open this up with a motion?
I would like to make a motion moving forward. I just wanted to make sure, do you want to make a motion and then we'll do discussion? Or
Yes,
do
I
we
think
want
that
to
would be good.
discuss? Yeah. I'd like to make a motion to authorize the superintendent to go after an RFP for a CTE facility behind the high school. Any other language you need, Dr. Hornick, on that?
May I have a second?
Could you specify which one, since we've received several of the high school proposals? Could you at least?
We want to,
But
Dr.
just-
Hornick, did we want to list as it was on the round table? I believe it was K.
I would just say the 30,000 square foot single story building.
Yes, ma'am. I agree.
I amend the motion to include the language of the 30,000 square foot facility behind the high school.
Thank you. May I have a second?
Second.
Discussion? Who would like to start?
All right, I guess I will. I'm going to try to keep this is strictly business. And so I want to make sure that emotions are out of this. And that being said, I do have quite a bit to say. So, after our retreat on Friday, I really was torn. I got a lot of different and new information, and I weighed this heavily over the past week. But that being said, I still don't think that just this proposal is the right move forward. So, that being said, we do have a gap in the motion with absence of instructional tools. Investing $14+ million in a CTE building that lacks the necessary instructional tools is a significant oversight that undermines the educational experience. A facility without the essential equipment for a practical learning experience fails to prepare students for the workforce effectively. This raises serious concerns about the school board's commitment to providing quality education and ensuring that students are job ready upon graduation. The board should prioritize its investments that directly enhance learning outcomes rather than constructing a building that does not support effective instruction. Any request for proposal should include all costs to build, including garage doors, hydraulic equipment like lifts, commercial kitchen installation, and other items of the like. It should also be mentioned that this does not include the cost for additional positions that these courses will require. Although that cannot be included in the proposal, this is a cost our constituents should be aware of. The decision to construct this new building while still relying on learning cottages highlights a troubling misalignment of priorities. Portables are often indicative of deeper infrastructural deficiencies and can negatively impact the learning environment. Instead of investing in a new structure that does not alleviate existing issues, the school board should focus on modernizing the entire campus and providing all students with stable and conducive learning environment, which I believe this board may be considering in the future, but right now it seems like it's 15, 20 years off the mark. Neglecting these pressing needs may hinder student performance and morale. Further, it was discovered that there are future possible recommendations coming to this board to add another costly addition to the high school in order to have enough space to remove the learning cottages. If that path is taken, we are looking at $30+ million in this investment that could have gone toward a new school that does not require the regular maintenance that the current campus requires. In my preparation for this meeting weeks ago, I had asked for the cost of regular building maintenance for the past 15 years, but was unsuccessful in obtaining these records. Additionally, the absence of our cosmetology program on campus highlights a disconnect between the school board's plans and the actual needs of the students. Even with the approval of the new metal building, the situation won't change. Investing in a CTE building without reintegrating the cosmetology program undermines the goal of fostering a unified community within the district. By offering hands-on courses at TEAC, a new community could be established and thrive as students obtain valuable trade education that leads to gainful employment. This arrangement is intended to be temporary while a comprehensive master plan is developed. However, it will provide an additional 1 to 2 years of trade education that would not be offered with the other plan that's currently on the table. With student achievement being this board's North Star, we should be jumping at the option that provides greater educational opportunities, and any delay on gathering information on this project is a clear inhibitor to the success of this board's decision-making process. Relying on loans to finance this project raises another serious concern about fiscal responsibility and transparency. Funding a project of this magnitude without a clear and sustainable budget plan is irresponsible and could lead to significant financial strain on the county in the future. It is crucial for the school board to prioritize initiatives that do not jeopardize the financial stability of Orange County or lead to increased taxes for families already facing economic pressures. Initially, we were told that there's $13 million to afford this project and that taxes would not be raised. Then we were informed that taxes may be raised, however, assessments may be adjusted to offset that somewhat. Now we hear that this project is unfunded and will be a debt to the taxpayers in Orange County, and it will be impossible to compute the implications this will have on the taxpayers. As of Friday, I was informed that the supervisors have $13 million, but the estimate is already nearly $14 million. We also know that it is unlikely that the cost will remain at the $14 million estimate. For everyone's edification, back in May, we were told $10 million. Building a CTE facility in a flood-prone area also presents serious risks, not only to the investment, but also to the safety and well-being of students and staff. Historical flooding could result in costly repairs, interruptions in educational programs, and safety hazards that undermine the educational experience. The school board must prioritize the safety of its students by selecting a more suitable location that is less susceptible to environmental risks. I also have it from a credible source, credible whistleblower, that we have classrooms being flooded at the high school, which to my understanding is at a higher elevation than this plan is, to the point where teachers were displaced for multiple days. The potential for increased taxes resulting from this project is a significant concern for taxpayers within the community. With many families already struggling financially, adding to their tax burden to fund a project that does not adequately address pressing educational needs is both unjust and short-sighted. The school board should be accountable to the community it serves and prioritize projects that offer tangible benefits to students and families, rather than pursuing costly initiatives that do not align with the strategic goals. In summary, the proposed investment in a CTE building represents a misallocation of resources that fails to address the immediate needs of the students and community. The school board should reconsider its priorities to focus on initiatives that enhance the educational quality, ensure student safety, and foster a supportive learning environment. This approach would demonstrate a genuine commitment to serving the best interests of all students and the community as a whole. This is why I would like to offer a substitute motion to move to get RFPs for both options sent out after review and approval by this school board.
Mr. Rickett?
Madam Chair, that was a motion.
Oh, sorry.
We're not going to make a motion in the middle of a,
You can. Robert's Rules of Orders, you can.
so we're in the middle of a discussion and a motion, and then you're going to add another motion on it?
It's a substitute motion, yes.
May I have a motion or a second for discussion? Well, we need to continue, so I will make the motion for discussion, or second for discussion. Now we may move on.
So,
Order.
yeah, we're all here Friday morning. Thanks for everybody coming out. So again, it's not personal, as you started everything out. I don't know if I would call it business, but it's not personal, and that means as school board representatives, we have to take emotion out of it, period. We started the project with a couple of simple goals. One, the entire community knows that we need a CTE program specifically for trades and some other things because we are failing miserably our young people and have been doing it for over 15 years. The inaction of this board and previous boards has been disappointing. And most of you that know me know that I have been intimately involved in this process for an extended period of time. So moving that forward is one of our priorities. And the second one is understanding that the high school is busting at the seams. We're at capacity. How can we develop a plan on campus that alleviates some stress within the high school, but helps us in multiple areas? This does that, absolutely does that. So this board came together through the, I want to say, Dr. Hornick, is it 5 or 6 master plans?
We've had quite a few studies, yes.
Yeah, let's just say we have more than 5 master plans over the last 15 years. As a taxpayer, I'm done spending the taxpayer money on master plans. There will be no perfect plan. There is no perfect plan because there is no pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. We can only afford what we can afford. So how can we achieve our 2 goals? There were more than 2, but those were the big ones. How can we achieve our goals within a budget? And that's what we came up with, and that's what we're presenting here today. And that's what I hope that we will be able to move forward. As it comes to this facility here, an investment here does not achieve the 2 goals. It does not alleviate stress on the high school. It creates additional burden on administration, staff, and busing. And then what do we do? And a lot of you are here, so I'm not going to do the emotional push everyone's button. What do we do with the programs and the people that are up here? I am very disappointed that we would present a plan that impacts so many without letting you know where would you go? Where are you going to go? What are you going to do? What office are you going to be in? Where are the young people going? This board did not commit to displace anyone, but in order to get the square footage that is necessary, displacement will happen. To present something without an alternative plan, very disappointing. So outside of that, I will stop talking and move it over to one of these guys.
There's obviously really strong opinions on both sides of this issue, voices pushing and pulling on both sides, and I've really worked hard to do my due diligence to listen fairly to both opinions, multiple opinions, and distill it all down into what I believe to be the correct path forward. And I know that no matter which way I go, I've got constituents who are going to be disappointed in my decision, and that's just the cost of leadership. So I'm willing to stand by what I'm about to say. I am in favor of approving the RFP for the on-campus 30,000 square foot metal building because it does check the most pros in my pros and cons diagram that I made for my own comparative study. It is an on-campus solution. As an educator, that's a priority to me. And I've talked to a lot of our administrative staff and our teachers who also say it's a priority for them. It does open classroom space inside the current high school that will help us relieve some overcrowding. It provides at least a chance of eliminating or maybe minimizing use of our beloved learning cottages on the front side of the building. It provides an opportunity for better safety and security on the back side of the high school. I've talked to administration about a vision for sort of a semi-enclosed courtyard type space on that back parking lot that will be able to be more closely monitored. Our SROs have talked about their approval of that idea. And in these days where safety and security is a priority, I think that's a wise choice to make. And it meets the near-term solution of CTE that will buy us at least 15 to 20 years, during which we can maybe develop another comprehensive master plan for how to move this county forward. Lots of talk about a second high school, but I just have to tell you, I think Orange for a long time is going to be a one high school county. It just is. And I know that's not happy news for the eastern end or the Barbersville end. Maybe a centrally located campus would be a good compromise. That's a discussion for another day. The cons, of course, start with the cost, taxpayers. But I've talked to a lot of taxpayers, and they're tired of this discussion. We have discussed and analyzed, and someone I talked to said, it's like analysis paralysis. With 15 years, we just keep going down this road, and 15 years later, we do not have a concrete facility. And in the meanwhile, we have generations of students who have lost out on those opportunities. So is 15 million, whatever it comes back, is that a ton of money? Absolutely it is. But our Board of Supervisors have said that they're going to work with us to fund it. They're the funders, not us. The money rests in their pockets, your pockets, but their decision making, not ours. And so I think that 15 million is a great deal of money. But if we want to accomplish this task, we're going to have to spend some money on it. And I think it's a worthwhile expenditure for our students. A metal building is not a short-term solution. This is a solid structure. It can be beautified as much as we want to put into beautifying it, but we're not after beauty, we're after function. When I think CTE, I'm old school, I think industrial arts. So I'm thinking the smell and the noise and all of that goes along with industrial arts type programming, which is what I've heard our community wants. Graduates who walk off that stage with certifications in welding and plumbing and electrical and HVAC, and they can waltz right into a job that will support a family right out of high school. We owe them that opportunity, in my opinion. So what about this option, TIAC? Accomplished sooner, we're told, and for maybe $3 million, although we don't have any firm numbers on that. And I've honestly tried to be open-minded and enthusiastic about considering this as an option. I've listened to Chair Anderson's proposal, and I commend her for taking the time to figure it all out and kind of see how it will fit, but I just can't get there. I have not been able to get there. I just wonder about too many things. The noise between the movable walls, the infrastructure. I'm told the sewer system is teetering on an edge because it's the old, back in the 50s. How do we add another 100 students here on that? The ventilation, the electrical, all of those infrastructure type things. And then I wonder about the negative impacts on what's already here. Is it wise to convert half of the gymnasium when we have not only Boys and Girls Club, but also apparently, as I'm told, our Parks and Rec and other sports people and the drone teams and all of that who utilize that space. I wonder about security and busing and schedules and lunches. And I wonder if there isn't another better option for this space. So having weighed all of that to the best of my ability, I will vote today to put out an RFP so that we can get some hard numbers, see what we're looking at. And if it comes back at 20 million, maybe we can't do that. That goes back to the Board of Supervisors. But to paraphrase one conversation I had, and I've had so many, it's time to stop looking for the perfect solution and get to work on a very good solution that's right here in front of us.
Madam Chair, are you going to be providing any presentation on the alternative that's been
Ms.
proposed?
Byram, can you pull that? I'm not really doing a presentation, but I have the drawings available for
Okay.
everybody to view.
If you wouldn't mind, maybe you could share your thoughts with the audience, and then I could talk about my position.
So this plan that we're showing, so I was able to put this together, and then I had our drafting teacher and drafting student put it into AutoCAD, so it was a little bit more legible than what I originally proposed. So this particular area is the gymnasium. My proposal was to divide it exactly in half. So half of the basketball court would remain. Entrance into that space would come from the main part of the building for Boys and Girls Club. The other half would then become our automotive section, and then in the boys' locker room, we can close that off so it's only accessible from the automotive section. This area, I believe, we would need to divide with some type of fire-rated wall. Ms. Byram, if you can move to the next one. This is our current space that we're sitting in addition to the hallway space and the additional rooms in the back. I was able to incorporate 2 classrooms for building trades and then 1 large building trades lab space, and then have accessibility to the back courtyard and then possibly the interior courtyard if needed. Next one. So this area here is everything to the left of where we're sitting. In these spaces, I was able to accommodate 2 nurse aid classrooms, 2 nurse aid labs. As you start walking down the hall, coming down to the last hallway here and turning left, I was able to extend the cosmetology area, culinary arts in that back L-shaped area with a classroom and lab space. Also being able to have the administration area kind of in a specific area so that both administration and where the students are coming in would not be would have to interact with one another on a day-to-day basis, so it would keep the noise levels down. And then obviously the bathrooms and stuff are existing, the restrooms are existing, and then I was also able to add additional space for the teachers' office space if needed. And again, depending on what all we want to accomplish in this space, these plans are just basically showing the space that's available and how we can rearrange them to accommodate different classrooms and lab spaces. So,
Thank you.
you're welcome.
My-
Go ahead.
Okay. So first, I would like to thank the board. I would like to thank Dr. Hornick. We've had a lot of discussion over this past year, and I think that we are at a point where we're ready to make a decision one way or the other to go forward with some level of RFP and proceed with our discussion and decisions on the CTE facility. As Jack has said, as our board member Rickett has said, the number one priority this year when having conversations about the CTE program was to get it going. However many master plans and however many years later, it's time. We need to make sure that we are supporting this process to provide this really necessary and long-needed program and facility. As he also said, that the second goal was to relieve the overcrowding at the high school. This does, in fact, relieve some overcrowding. It brings, I believe, about 200 students will be able to be put into classrooms at the high school if the facility at the high school is constructed and put up, and that's the 30,000 square foot building. The decision that I will be making will also align with the goals that I had as a candidate running for the school board. The continued improvement of educational opportunities and achievement for our students. I think that the high school location provides the best availability to achieve those things, in addition to having the CTE facility on campus. It also addresses my second goal of building a CTE and making sure that we are continuing to take into consideration and provide a safe and secure environment for all of our students. And finally, I believe that it addresses climate and culture. Again, just by going forward and making the decisions and showing the respect to our community, to those citizens, parents, teachers, everyone that has been so involved in the conversations over the years. So, from my understanding, it would provide us the building trades for electricity, masonry, other things like that, that then actually provide workforce readiness versus just a certification. It would also maintain that career path for those wanting to go in that direction. It will provide and maintain a cosmetology program. It will provide a culinary program and possibly improve our current culinary program dramatically, from what I understand. Some of the concerns have been the difference between workforce readiness and certifications. I believe that the structure put at the high school would resolve that concern, and we would then have those workplace readiness transitions for our students going from high school to a well-paying job. There is no perfect plan. When we make the decision about the RFP, that actually will provide us the next step and information, not only to the true and actual projected cost of the building, but will include the cost of FF&E, furniture, equipment, etc. So we will have that total cost that we would then be able to go forward with our next step. One of the things that has been identified are the lovely cottages or portables over at the current existing location at the high school. And the intent is at a point in time to get rid of those. It may not happen at the exact same time, but the intent is to get our students out of there, not having them having to go back and forth to those portables for classes, and to eventually eliminate those structures from the facility. I've spoken to people that I have worked with in the past. I have over 17 years of school business experience, and I have been involved from the beginning to the end of school construction for modernization projects, new construction, bond proposals, citizen surveys, etc., for many years. And it's just not feasible or appropriate to put out a request for two separate RFPs. It requires a lot of time and money for our private sector to respond to something like that, and there are other concerns that I would have associated with that. So I'm not in support of doing two separate RFPs. I absolutely do not want to delay this further. I think that we have a lot of conversation and discussion that we can continue to go forward with to improve the entire process, including possibly going and having another master plan, but not before we take care of this business. So I will support, and I will vote when that action is taken to support the 30,000 square foot single-story building located and put at the high school in order to provide our students and this community what they have been hoping for and probably stressing a little bit about. And I would also want to say it was Transportation, I mean, that was a huge piece for me. I do not want to transport students anymore back and forth, back and forth. It's just not acceptable. We need to get our students in classrooms where they have the appropriate instruction and equipment to learn, excuse me. So, again, I respectfully appreciate the conversations. I appreciate the different thoughts and proposals. I appreciate the due diligence with which this board has tried to make sure that we are taking into consideration all the facts, all the current impacts and future impacts. And finally, I want to say my vote will maintain and continue our Boys and Girls program, our Head Start program, and those other community things that support students and children in this community here at TIAC. Thank you.
All right. So there are obviously my plans. There's been a lot of questions regarding the backstory on those. I kind of want to go into a few things, and I can address that as well. With the exception of our students' and teachers' safety, CTE is my top priority. It has been since I ran for election. Once again, there is not a documented plan for CTE to vote on besides what I put together. It is in my opinion that we, the board, and the administration have not completed the prerequisite task of determining a documented proposal that could be submitted to either an architect or a builder. Can someone please show me in writing what we're voting on? Let me clearly state some of my concerns for the building site. It is not part of the master or strategic plans that have been developed. On September 11th, 2023, our high school facility and neighboring businesses flooded. One in particular is 15 plus feet higher in elevation than this proposed location. Do we have flood insurance? If so, how would this building affect that cost? To be clear, the board voted to ask the Board of Supervisors to negotiate and purchase the Harley-Davidson property in 2022. Obviously, that did not come to fruition. We have been verbally told money is available for this project, but I have yet to see it in writing and how much. I've heard numbers ranging from $500,000 to $20 million. In studying the master plan and the RRMM and Timmons report specifically related to the TIAC option, that included cost estimates, the included cost estimates are grossly inaccurate and could be misleading. I used their calculations in a spreadsheet I created, and when I used the correct square footage and removed the $8.2 million allocated for Head Start, which I had no intention of ever moving, and the $4 to $5 million allocated for HVAC upgrades that are already awarded in another contract, so we would not need to spend this again. Note, this should have been known at the time when these reports were given, if there was a well-documented project plan. My calculations are estimated on the high side of just over $6 million. I believe this number is high, and I've spoken to multiple contractors and engineers, and this price, they would agree, is high. And just an FYI, I did rely on cost projections from I did not rely on just cost projections from one contractor. I have spoken to many. Just to set the record straight, the following is an email from December 4th, 2022, where I stated, wouldn't CTE be higher on the list than the addition to the high school? And again, there was an email that was in regards to this, which I didn't feel it was necessary to read today, but this was my response. I don't think we need to waste the company's time, company meaning RRMM, to walk through the raw property. The county inspectors have already given some approximate numbers, and I don't think that it is in our budget, plus the purchase of the property is not in the budget. If we want CTE now, then this would not be a solution unless we want to wait another 10 years. I just want it all on the table. I've spoken with quite a few people in town, business leaders, county inspectors as well, and they all feel the same. We have a perfect solution, and it can be done now with the TIAC building. We need to prioritize what is most important in that building, and if it's administration, then CTE is not important at all. I have been asking for TIAC, a former school with movable wall panels, to be considered for CTE, and all I've been given is inaccurate estimates, delays, and excuses. So if you still feel that I went behind your back to come up with these plans, you should probably just turn around, because we're sitting in the space. I say all this to say we are currently sitting in the building that could occupy our children's future success, while we waste time looking for solutions below the waterline. In closing, show me, in writing, what are we voting on? Where is it allocated in our budget or the Board of Supervisors budget? What the successful implementation of this will look like. All that to say that I am in support of having both estimates. I think that if we rely on one estimate, which again, if we're considering a design build firm versus an architect, we're opening them up to having multiple proposals. Because if we do not give them specifics as to what we are looking for, they could all come back with different designs, with different costs. We are not doing our due diligence up front to give us the best options. Having TIAC as a secondary option, what if this building does come in well above what we are considering as far as cost? Then we have to go back to the drawing board. We have to come up with another plan, and then we have to submit that. So now we are delaying more time. So in proposal, I'm in favor of sending them both out. I think we can at least compare the two. And if we don't have comparison, how do we know we are getting the best option? So, thank you.
Madam Chair, I call the question.
What, if you don't mind, just one quick comment. I didn't say anything about the secondary RFP. I'm not in favor of the secondary RFP for as simple as this. I want to make sure everybody's clear. The plan that is being presented is not the supervisor's plan. It's the school board's plan, period. We came up with the plan, we gave options, we presented it, and we gave a recommendation. They accepted it. It's not the school board's plan. I'm sorry, it's not the Board of Supervisors' plan. Everybody loves to throw around all of this stuff. It's not. We have been told that we have the funding for the motion that I made. There is no funding for TIAC. That is the reason why I will not be in favor of an RFP for here. I do not want to ruin the relationship with the supervisors and all of the contractors that we used, that Dr. Hornick regularly deals with and Marty and Marshall handle, because we would be getting information on something that we know we don't have the money to fund. It's dead. That would be it. It would be nothing else. So I just wanted everybody to know why I'm voting the way that I'm voting. Thank you for the additional time.
I appreciate that. But if there's no funding for a project that comes in less than another project, then I would argue that it's not the school board's plan and we are being told what we are allowed and not allowed to vote for. Further, it's not the school board's plan. It was the CIP committee's plan that came up with this idea. And then we're coming around, circling back. I'm finally added to the conversation. And this is where we're at. So I would argue that that wasn't entirely accurate, but I do appreciate the insight as to why you're voting the way you are, because I think it's important that the public knows that there's not funding for this particular project at TEAC. Madam Chair, with that, I would like to call the question on my motion. To reiterate, I move to get RFPs for both options sent out after review and approval by this school board. And there's already a second.
All those in favor by saying aye?
Aye.
All those opposed?
No.
No.
All right.
Madam Chair, I'd like to offer another secondary motion to add on to Jack Ricketts. I want to make sure that the RFP is reviewed and approved by the school board before they are sent out.
Do I have a second?
We discussed this at the retreat, by the way.
Do I have a second on that motion?
Give me a little bit more. So what my motion does is authorize the superintendent to create an RFP and send it out. So you would like to see it before it goes out to contractors, developers, and so forth. That's what you're asking?
Yes.
Okay. I don't see a downside, Dr. Hornick, as someone that's just a year in. I don't know typically what the protocol is, but in my mind, I don't see go ahead.
Why would we treat this different than any other RFP we've ever sent out?
Okay.
Because I would like to make sure that included in that is the hydraulic equipment, the lifts, the culinary kitchen. I would like to see the details of the RFP before it goes out.
The RFP,
And that's my request.
my motion does not include those details. It will not. It is the structure and the structure alone.
So if we don't have the funding for a $20 million project and we come in at $15 million for this plan, we're going to have to invest further funding to get this building up and ready. So if we don't have $20 million to spend, we don't have $20 million to spend. Doesn't matter how you slice the cake. So I would like to ensure that all of that is included, and that's why I want to review the RFP prior to. Madam Chair, that is my motion.
Madam Chair, may I speak?
Absolutely.
I absolutely disagree with going out for a second RFP. I think that this is another delay tactic. I feel that they have been used consistently over this past year. We have been advised that information has not been provided to us or to certain members of this board. I disagree. I think that this is something that is based on an individual's, multiple individuals' interest versus looking at the North Star, which is what we have agreed to do, and make sure that it is in the best interest of our students. That's what we need to do. We need to stop muddying the water. You do not have the experience to understand the process that goes forward. And I think we have taken, this board, just this board alone, has taken the time to review options and make a decision today and not to delay it. There's no reason to bring an RFP back to us for approval. We're approving that to be developed today. We're approving our administration to do that, to make that happen. So I respectfully disagree.
Madam Chair? Yes. Just as a point of clarification, it was my understanding that the RFP does include, what's the acronym? FFE. Is that accurate? Is that a Marty question? Is that a?
Well, I think it was probably on me. I misspoke a little bit. What they end up doing is taking the square footage, and then the FFE is added in there. So is the specifics. I spoke a little quickly because she said, lifts, chairs, so forth. So it is a percentage based on square footage and how they formulate the math from that.
Right.
So we'll get a estimate, within that particular proposal of what it takes to basically have a turnkey without personnel.
So what we're voting.
That's a little on me, so I apologize.
Okay. So what we're voting on is simply putting out the RFP to get some hard numbers. And once at the back end of that process, then we'll have what that looks like, which is what an RFP always does, correct?
Yes, ma'am. Marty, did you want to provide any clarification?
Yes, as far as an RFP goes, as a former general contractor in design build, you don't necessarily put FF&E in that. That is always an additional. So what you're asking, and let me just say this too, what you're asking to do 2 RFPs is not ethical, nor I believe it's legal, because you're asking a general contractor to spend money to design and to give you a price on a project that you're not going to do. You're not going to do one of them, so that's not ethical.
Marty, am I correct in my statement that you'll look at FFE as far as square footage and?
Yes, sir. We'll look
Right.
at it as part of the programs and I'm the one who's writing it.
Correct.
So when you are asking for a general contractor to provide you, say, an auto mechanics, we will provide, once you get into design, then you will start providing what type of lifts. It's hard for me to tell you what type of lift the auto mechanic program would want. Now, the GC will need to know that as he's designing it, because he will need to have power and different things like that, exhaust and everything like that for his auto mechanics program. Same way with culinary.
Perfect.
You need to know all how much gas you'll need for your burners, how much power you'll need, and different things like that.
Marty, thank you.
So just a statement here, and again, my request is having something in writing, and I think Ms. Quintern asking for seeing the RFP before it goes out is kind of along the same lines of getting something in writing, because the definition of an RFP is request for proposal, a detailed, again, the word detailed, specifications of goods or services required by an organization sent to potential contractors and suppliers. So am I misunderstanding? Because I don't know, are we bidding on the shell? Are we bidding on interior walls? Is this the shell and the foundation? What are we voting on? Because at this point, there has been no designs done other than originally the building was a rectangle, 30,000 square foot rectangle. Now, because of a creek that runs on that property, we put a bend in it. And anytime you put a bend in a project or another roof line, the cost of the project goes up. So where along the lines did we determine that we would go from a rectangular building to an irregular hexagon? Because I'm just not following the process, because I don't know what we're voting on as far as the actual plan, if you will. What does that include? So again, with the RFP being reviewed before it goes out, gives us the opportunity to know what we're actually voting on today.
What's the timeline?
When you're going for an RFP, whether it's an RFP to an architect or that, when you design a new school, you don't have drawings for a new school. The architect comes with you with a concept and saying, here it is, okay? That's what you're asking for. When I list it, I say, I want a 30,000, 35 square foot building that says that I need an auto mechanics program, culinary, a nursing program. I list all of these so they know exactly at least what they're gonna need for power, AC,
Sure.
and different things like that. They will come to us with a concept. They will have a concept. And in that, I ask them for that concept. So I asked them, so when it comes in, the RFPs come in, they should have a conceptual concept, a floor layout of what it will look like. That's what we've asked. You can't have that beforehand. You can't, or you want to hire an architect,
Right.
have him draw it, which he's still going to come to you and say, what do you want? And then
Agreed.
he's going to go back and look at his concept.
Agreed. But my question is, if we are going the design build route,
Design build is the same way, except the contractor hires the architect, which cuts out the majority of your changes.
Sure.
Unless the owner changes something during the project.
absolutely. But my question is, if we are sending out an RFP with basic instructions, and we have multiple contractors come back, and we are typically to take the lowest bid, but we like the design of another build better. What's to say, how are we going to compare apples to apples if they're three different plans?
You're basing it on a square foot size building. Okay, you're basing it on a square foot size building. Just like you're buying a car, every car is different. It may be two different styles. Yes, you can go back and you can say, hey, I like this, we've seen one here, that we have this, I'd like to see how we can incorporate this. In a design build, the owner dictates to the contractor what they want,
Correct.
okay? So if there's something that you like, you can have that incorporated in that contractor's plans.
Yeah, but
It's not, as long as it don't change the square foot, it shouldn't change the price of the project.
Yeah, I
So if
don't-
you have somebody that's lower, but you like the second guy's concept, you can talk to that contractor and say, hey, I'd like to incorporate this. I really liked how this looked. It's all a concept until it goes to construction and you have the final drawings.
Well, is there any legal issue with sharing information from a different bid into?
Public opening, no ma'am. It is beforehand.
Okay, so they're going to
Like
present,
whoever helped design your drawings are not able to bid. If they were going to bid out TIAC, they wouldn't be able to bid because they are already helping with that, would be essentially part of the RFP.
gotcha.
Thanks, Marty. I think Ms. Quintern, myself and everyone in here, we've talked it, we've beat the horse is dead. So let's get to it. Ms. Quintern called the vote, or amended
The original motion.
So
I would still like to be able to see the RFP prior. This is a massive investment on our end, and I would like to see it and offer any additions or modifications prior to it going out.
Right.
Madam Chair, I call the question.
Ms. Quintern, I'm sorry, we need a second on your secondary motion.
May I have a second? I'll second.
Could you please clarify what exactly the motion is at this
Jack's
point?
original motion was to send out a request for proposal on the 30,000 square foot, one-story metal structure behind the high school. And my amendment is to add that the school board will review and approve prior to the RFP going out.
yeah,
Maybe not in a formal vote at another school board meeting, but I would like to see it before it goes out to be able to offer some
yeah,
comments.
I would say that if it was in good, this is where I am personally as we sit here today. If I felt it was in good faith, it wouldn't be a problem. What I see is another opportunity to delay the project. So trust Marty, trust Dr. Hornick. They will present something, they will put it out, they will come back to the, and give us the numbers in the presentation. No money will be spent unless it is approved by the school board. And that is how we do every single RFP, and that's the way we should do this one.
All right. She called the question. There was a second. All those in favor with the amended to the original motion, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
No.
No.
All right. Now we'll go back to the original motion.
Madam Chair, I have comment on that, and I just want everyone to be aware that we are unsure as to what is going into this RFP. We will not be able to determine what that is. We don't know if lifts are going to be included, what additional costs are, and I believe that has been made clear today.
You will know before we vote to spend $1. I'm going to say this to everybody in this room. You will know before we spend 1 penny, you will know what's in it, period. And I call the question myself.
All those in favor with the original motion, say aye.
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 All those opposed?
Nay.
All right.
And if I could just thank everybody for coming out. I love seeing everyone that works in the school division. This is your school division. This is your school division. Whatever side you came out on, it really doesn't matter. You know, always take the opportunity to come out and voice your opinion about where you work and the young people that are impacted. So thank you all. And then I'd like to personally thank Bill Hager.
Madam Chair, I have another thing before we close. I have another item before we close.
I'd like to personally thank Bill Hager for pulling us along, dragging us, kicking, screaming, to just find a solution. He never drove one thing home. It was just a constant, we need to talk, we need to talk, we need to talk, we need to talk, and find a solution for our young people. Your dedication to this community is unmatched. And what you do for fundraising and scholarships, it's a better county with you living in it, my friend. So thank everybody.
Thank you, Bill.
Madam Chair. Dr. Hornick, I had asked yesterday to get some
Yeah,
numbers.
we are not adjourned yet. Sorry.
For some vape detectors. Do you have that for me?
They are 2,000.
We are not adjourned yet, please.
Mic's still on, right? Okay. Yes, the vape detectors are, the sensors to be installed are $2,190 each. And we would need 39 of them. So let's just say 40.
Okay.
So probably looking.
So good estimate, 88,000.
Yeah, 80, between 85 and 90,000. Yes,
Madam
ma'am.
Chair, I'm bringing this to your attention because we did have a legislative committee meeting, and I apologize for not having time to add this to the agenda, but we need a definitive direction by this board in order to have our legislators move forward on a budget amendment request. And I wanted to get that number before you all. That would be $88,000 to get roughly 40 vape detectors for our high school and our middle
And
school.
both middle schools.
Both middle schools. In order to move forward with that, we need to send a formal letter to our delegates and our senator. So I wanted to get that before you all for consideration. I don't know, because it's time sensitive, I would like to have action on that item because we would need to get it to them before January 10th. And I believe our next school board meeting is not until January 13th.
That's right.
So this would be a budget amendment ask from our legislators to the governor in order to obtain a request for $88,000 to be able to fund this project.
Would somebody like to make a motion?
I would second that.
Was that a motion? or
Sure,
was-
that's
okay.
my motion.
That's her motion. We have a second. All those in favor by Ms. Quintern and Ms. Harrington drafting a letter to send to our legislators.
Aye.
I would just add, so doesn't it need to come from Dr. Hornick?
No. It's a school board.
But he will develop what he would like to do within the school division, present it to us, and we will accept it and do it, correct?
No, this is a budget, just strictly a budget request. We don't have any specifics about where it's going, what we're doing with the items. We just know what the items are, how much it's going to cost, and this is going to be able to afford this without touching local funds.
And this is based on our conversation with our legislative committee yesterday. The superintendent was involved in that, and it would provide us, again, the offset for us to go forward and have further discussions and then hopefully get those devices in place and get reimbursed
again,
for them.
Which was headed up by our youth council, so I want to give them
Yes,
credit for
thank
this.
you.
All those in favor by
Aye.
saying aye?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passes. Okay. There's nothing else. I'll adjourn this meeting. Thank you.